Hey, happy Wine Wednesday.
Woohoo! Happy Wine Wednesday. Welcome, everyone. Mira Boucher, good happy Wednesday. And everyone across the country, Carl's Wine Club members, Canadian wine lovers, it is Rosé Wednesday. Yeah, we changed the whole topic. It's not the same anymore. Nah, I'm just joking. But today, it's a very focus-centric rosé conversation that we're going to have today. And it's Seven Direction Week, where we're featuring some of the most sought after rosés in the country from the guy that I like to call the rosé master in Canada. But sometimes he says, "Stop saying that, girl. I don't like when you call me the rosé master." But to me, he is the top rosé winemaker in the country. He has now 55 rosé wines under his belt since 2005. So we're going to talk about his story. Daniel Bontorin, winemaker from and owner and founder of Seven Directions, going to be with us in 5 to 7 minute time. So welcome from, I would say, all the way from the eastern province to Victoria, 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock already in the Eastern time zone, and 5 o'clock here in the Okanagan. A sunny but cold day. We are stuck with the cold snap around here. Like, it's still going like on the minus during the winter. At least we're not in Winnipeg. What do you think about that?
Well, I was going to say this is, dedicated to the Winnipeggers who have that massive blizzard coming their way. It's 9:30 in Newfoundland. Thanks, Mike. Yes, it's true. They get like 4.5 hours ahead of where we are, I think. So
yeah, that's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. Mike Laplante, the average wine enthusiast. How are you doing, Mike? Glad to have you on. You're a nice background you have here. Pretty cozy back there. I love it. Really, really,
yeah, well,
really.
Speaking of the weather, I wanted to be outside like we were last week because, you're drinking rosé. You want to be on the patio, but it's a little chilly. It's a little chilly, little nippy.
Well, let me stop you right here, okay? Because yes, rosé screams patio, rosé screams summer, but to me, rosé screams fireplace as well. There's nothing as sexy as a glass of rosé by the fireplace, cuddling with the loved one. I think that's just my view of it. But yeah, so you look darn good with your glass of rosé down here.
Well,
so if you look behind me, I have a bunch of different rosés, but we're going to talk mostly about Seven Directions. What makes Seven Directions so special? And sorry for the coughing. We are both under the weather, Mira and I.
So, you know what happened? We didn't get sick for a long time in COVID, and then all of a sudden, like, allergies came back because I think I had way less allergies with the masks. And then Carl hasn't had a sinus infection in
3 years.
Pandemic.
Yeah.
And suddenly
I'm full on. Yeah, it's full on sinus infection, ear infection, like the whole 9 yards. I feel like shit. But guess what? If everything goes away when I crack a bottle of Seven Direction, and I have here with me in my glass the Friedeville Ridge Cabernet Franc Rosé that I rated 92 points from Daniel Bontorin at Seven Directions. So now I don't feel any of my pain and any of my illness. So I am 100% rocking. So, hey, you know what I want to know from all of the members who are listening tonight? I want to know what is their favorite rosé. I want to know which grape they love when they crack a bottle of rosé. Are they grape specific? Are you producer specific? What do you look for when you crack a bottle of rosé? Let's start the conversation in the chat room. Daniel is going to join us in a couple minutes. But Mira, I want to ask you that question. What are you looking for? What do you hope when you say, "Han, go get a bottle of rosé"?
All right, so I'll tell you the first thing for me is the nose, honestly, and the color too sometimes matters, but it gets you in the mood. Like you smell this rosé and you're like, "Oh, it's so pretty." Like it's so,
Sexy.
invigorating, sexy, exciting. And and Mike's saying Grenache is his favorite rosé varietal. Well, I gotta try some of that. And I know that Daniel's gonna tell us a bit more about that because he planted some Grenache, which is
There
exciting.
you go. I think it's its second leaf this year. Uh, is it or something? We'll talk more, but he has some in the
Well,
Civil Camino.
yeah,
So
so for me, in a nutshell, it's that nose that's the most exciting part for a rosé, and then how pretty it looks. And then after that, it's like a mix between a red and a white to me. So it's like not as like it goes with everything that you're eating. So in the summer, it's like you simplify things in the summer. If I had a kitchen outside, I would just cook outside all summer and then drink rosé. Because I think it pairs with everything I'd be cooking outside. So it'd be perfect. But hey, Daniel's here. Can we bring him in?
so before you bring Daniel in, I would just want to answer here because to me, there's so many things who intrigue me and excites me about rosé. First and foremost, the flavor profile, and second of all, it's what you can do with these different grapes. Like the Pinot Noir rosé versus a Cabernet Franc rosé versus a Syrah rosé, and now you're seeing Merlot rosé. Uh, there are so many wines that has been made, and there's different method as well. When we're talking about like the press method, the old classic French style, just like slightly press in contact for 4 hours, get out of here, put that in the bottle, like fresh, vibrant, full of energy. Or also the bleed method. So bleed method will give you something a little bit more concentrated. So there's so many ways to do your rosé, and also the sparkling. I'm a big fan of sparkling rosé personally. I think there's something sexy to that. So yeah, here's my take on rosés. Summerhill Malbec Syrah is pretty interesting. I have to agree with you, Mike. Very good point right there. There's also, I like the Omerta from Black Market, definitely. New style this year going on with Cabernet Franc. Also, I'm a big fan of the Similkameen Valley Oracle from we just received the 2021 from Corsolat, right up there with Danielle's wine as well. So yeah, but what we have today, this week with Carl's Wine Club is something very unique. It's a premiere across the country, and we're featuring the 2021 vintage from Seven Directions. And please bring the man, the myth, the legend, Daniel Bontorin.
Daniel, so good to see you.
Good evening, everyone. How's everybody
Daniel, good evening. How's it going?
It's going good. Sorry, not feeling well. But,
yeah, but you know what? You're gonna do most of the talking. I'm gonna let you do the most of the talking.
No, I'll let you do most of it.
Unless his sound is off, because at the beginning we had a little glitch with the sound, so hopefully it comes back.
Yeah, we're strictly on Wi-Fi here, so hopefully it's going to be okay on our end here as well.
Yeah, I'm going to hop out and listen to you guys so that it's less bandwidth for you, Daniel. But yeah, I'm super excited because Mike was saying, Grenache, and I've never heard of Canadian Grenache. I know that's one of your projects with planting some Grenache, and I just want to know more about, Carl will ask the questions, but I'm going to be listening, and I want to know, I hope that he asks, how'd you get passionate about rosé and decide to do something exclusively rosé that way? So hope that you guys get to chat about that, and we'll see you real soon.
Thanks, Mira. So Dan, it's you and me now. So before we start with the Grenache and the estate now, where you're at with building the winery in the Similkameen Valley, how's the state of the vineyard? Let me start, because I know that some members are dying to know a little bit more how Daniel Bontorin got connected with rosé. So let's go back in 2005, and I want to hear a little bit more about the first vial of rosé from Le Vieux Pin.
Well, 2005 was the very first winemaking actually job I received after coming back from Italy, working 3 months. an early harvest there in northern Italy. And the wines were made at actually Fairview Cellars while Le Vieux Pin was building their winery. Kind of like now, we were Grand Gis winery. We were making wines just up until recently at Volcanic Hills in West Kelowna. So we had a facility to make the wine and such. So that's kind of the similar sort of thing there. And rosé wasn't really a fad or a fashion. I mean, then maybe one or two wineries had a little bit. It kind of had a bad rap. It was sweet. It was dark. Just
that was that old white Zinfandel from Ernest and Julio Gallo, right? That was like when we talked about rosé back in 05. That was filled. The shelf were filled with Gallo, white Zinfandel rosé. That's what it was.
And Matus, yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. Yeah, darn it, I forgot about Matus.
Yeah, pretty fancy bottle for back then, but so we kind of experimented, and the first batch was vineyard in West Kelowna, and we tried it. We did it Saignée method. That was the one of the ways to make. That was a pretty wet year, and Le Vieux Pin had a lot of Pinot Noir that came in, and with higher crops, higher yields that came in. So one way to make the Pinot Noir better is to do a Saignée, which is bleeding your main vat that you have crushed in order to concentrate tannin, color, and flavor. So you're in essence you're taking out the heart of the vat, basically, because it's all free run. It's the purest juice. But at that stage, we wanted to make the Pinot better because that was a focus. So we're like, okay, what do we do with this, at 1,400 liters or 1,500 liters? So we decided to make rosé, and it was on skins for about 24 or 48 hours, something like that at that time. So we decided to make it really well, and restaurant called Vidges in Vancouver. He snapped up all 70 cases right away as soon as he tasted it. It was a very beautiful, light salmon color, delicate, lots of acidity, very fruitful, and dry at the same time. And so from there, it was me and Joie who basically started, I guess, what they call the rosé revolution, I guess. And from there, it was one of the wines that I excelled at, and I just kept at it and kept making rosé every year. And I enjoy a challenge, and making single vineyard, single varietal wines. There's no blending. There's no tweak. The color's too dark. Let's put some white wine in it to make it lighter, make it fruitier. Everything's based grown in the vineyard, and you have to grow it properly. You can't have low yields because then your skins are too thick. You're going to have too much color in the end and such like that. You want brighter acidity, so therefore more crop. Sometimes more crop isn't a bad thing, especially making rosé. You definitely want a slightly balanced, larger crop in order to keep your flavors, keep your color down, acidity. So all those things. And I made, Cabernet Franc. I made Pinot Noir rosé, Malbec, Syrah, Sangiovese 1 year. So yeah.
That's awesome. So there's how everything started with Le Vieux Pin back in 05. And from there, you are the forefront of the rosé revolution. And now, 2022, so we're talking 17 years later, 55 rosés under your belt. Many people that I know that goes to you to ask about techniques and tips and cues about rosés, because you're one of the reference in the whole region about rosé. You are extremely passionate about rosé, and now, like you mentioned at the beginning, right? Sometimes there's these kind of happen by mistake, and you try to fix a little something, turn into something absolutely genius. Now your passion for it, and for me, what makes a very big difference, it's you, the viticulture that you do is based on the final product. You manage the vineyard in the very single goal of the end result of a bottle of rosé at the end of the summer. Not at the end of the summer, but at 2/3 of the summer. Let's put it that way. Now you've been working with two different single vineyards. The Tractor and Vines vineyard.
Consistently, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, here in Summerland, and the Fruitvale Ridge in Oliver. What makes these two pieces of land special to you?
Well, we can start at down south, Fruitvale Ridge, in kind of the border of Oliver. So yes, it's on a very rocky slope, really close to the mountains there. If you're familiar with the Burrell area, which is on the bench side, this is completely the opposite side. So very close to the mountainside, a lot of shale and rock. Very cool in the afternoons. So it gets the early sun, but then cools right down, and there's the shadowing of the mountain cools down the vineyard, keeping the acidity. So the vines are, I believe, 14, 15 years old now. So over the years, we've been tweaking that rosé a little bit, picking earlier, brighter acidity, still trying to keep the two rosés. I mean, they will never be the same because of the varieties, the locations, the terroir each. But freshness and acidity for every rosé is kind of what you're going for. So we've been tweaking that vineyard, picking lower sugar, lower alcohol, fresher. The acidity is lower regardless in the Osoyoos area. So you'll find the wine a little bit richer, generally slightly darker. I mean, they're very, very similar this year. It was a little bit hotter, obviously, than a few vintages ago as well. So with heat comes, thicker skins, more color. So then there's the managing of it in the press as well. So very little skin contact.
So let me get back to one question that I have just to give our people a perspective. We're talking about early picking the grape early.
Yeah.
If you were making a regular still red Cabernet Franc from that vineyard, you would pick usually late October, early November, right?
Yeah, usually that vineyard for red, we're picking usually by the 15th for the rosé of October. The frost actually comes between October every year regardless during that window. So when you lose the leaves, there's no more ripening, the grapes start to dehydrate. So you definitely don't want that for rosé, because dehydrated grapes equals more sugar concentration, more color. And then we do keep some aside to make some red wine for our Key Little Vintners that we have, the brand. And that usually gets picked 2 weeks later. That particular vineyard doesn't get a lot of sugar anyways. But me, I like big reds, and most of the time I'm picking at 25, 26 bricks for reds. We're picking at 22 for rosé and 23 and a half, maybe 24 for the red off that property. So it doesn't get overly ripe. And that's again because of the shading of the mountain. A little bit cooler site, which is perfect for Cab Franc because you don't want to burn the Cab Franc either. Just like Pinot Noir, if it gets too hot, you burn the flavors, and stuff like that.
So you picked, especially in 2021, you picked the rosé 2 weeks earlier than the pick for the reds.
Yes. Yeah.
There you go.
That's generally every year on that vineyard how it is. It's a couple weeks earlier than the actual red. And what we do, it's quite a steep slope. So the bottom slope, having water drain down, the berries are bigger on the bottom. And as you go up the slope, they get more concentrated and smaller berries. So we leave the top portion for our red, and we pick the juicier fat ones that have more acidity and juice for the rosé. So,
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you on the the vineyard is on the Golden Mile side or on the Black Sage Bench side?
The Golden Mile side, just outside of that appellation.
Okay.
Not by much, but it's still considered, that area there. And actually, the growers like that we do that because they're avoiding the frost. We pick it before the frost comes down on the hole there, so it's kind of a win-win there, and it makes a better rosé than the top portion, obviously, because it's juicier. There's less color in the skins, less tannin, but still has the lower acidity. So with Fruitvale, it's softer, rounder, very dry, but you can taste the you can taste the sunshine in the bottle because it's it's from a warmer region because you can just smell it in the glass, right?
Absolutely. Even before you taste the aroma, you taste the flavors. That on the texture, you can feel a little bit more. The texture comes to you. It's textural. It feels a little warmer, and you have these these flavors of apricot, and a little bit more baked apple, but it's savory. That's what I love from that wine. It's the savoriness of that wine. It makes it serious to bring that bottle to the dinner table, and the pairing potential with that wine is absolutely off the chart to me. So, I'm a big fan of the Tractor and Vines, pretty much like everyone, but like especially this year, this wine is a big step up. Not that the one prior was not. You made my the honorable mention 2 years ago with that very specific wine, but this year, boom! It just gets right there with Tractor and Vines. The texture is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, it's those little tweaks in the vineyard. Picking that slightly bit early, really monitoring the press during pressing. The crushing for color. Some years we've done whole cluster just because the color's been too dark. So, or we do a half whole cluster and then we crush and press the other one, soak it for an hour or two, then blend the two together after to bring the, compensate for maybe a little bit too warmer vintage, darker color. But there's no blending between the two or white wine being added in any of the rosés. So it's very pinpoint. So.
That's the true definition of single vineyard, focus, precise rosé. I love that. And it's the French style method. Sometimes people are asking, what's the French style method? It's only the press. There's no bleed. There's no add. It's not a red wine where you add white wine. No, it's the red grape that you press slightly and the juice when drips between the grapes to get in the free run juice, and you leave it on the skin for how many hours? You get skin contact here.
Both of these were 2 hours on the skins.
2 hours on the skin.
So crush. We crush into press, and we keep it in the press under carbon dioxide and SO2. And I'm checking the color every half an hour, and such. So I kind of know when it's time. If you're too dark, this far into the press, then you're too dark. So it has to be just barely starting to turn like the hint of pink, and then it's time to press. So
you're already talking about color, and that's something I wanted to bring with you. So let's talk about Fruitvale, about Tractor and Vines first, and let's get back to the color, because you see I have it. Sorry, I have an area of a different rosé behind me, and everyone will notice that I have a bunch of different colors, and that fascinates me how you manage the colors. So let's talk about the Summerland Vineyard. It's a very sought after vineyard, and I can throw a rock in my new house here right into this vineyard. So please tell me more about Tractor and Vines Vineyard, where the Pinot Noir absolutely shine, and like the determination of terroir. It's what's, to me, it's a reflection of Tractor and Vines.
Well, I started the first year I purchased the grapes was 2016, I believe it was. And right away there was, I've made a lot of Pinot Noir over the years, and this it stood out. It was just outstanding right out the gate. Not because it's our least vineyard, but Summerland I think is the best place in the whole Okanagan, even better than Lake Country, to grow Pinot Noir. It's right across the lake from Trout Creek. You can literally see the people walking their dog along the beach there. Water table is very low. Very high. It's about 9 feet from the surface. There's zero irrigation. I have drip, but we've never irrigated at all since we've leased the property in 2017.
Wow.
So
not even in 2021 under that heat dome.
No, nothing.
Wow.
We sacrificed a little bit of fruit, and we had a little bit more concentration in color, but we managed that in the press. But the vineyard, it regulates itself. Anywhere between 4.2 and 4.8 tons on the acre. It's only a 1 acre property, so we're only producing 230, 220, 240 cases depending on the year off that property. Super high acid, cold nights. It gets very, very hot. For the vineyard management, we do 3 leaf thins throughout the year at different stages, so we don't burn the fruit. And try to keep the berries as large as possible without going over our yield in order to maintain that vibrancy that it has and the flavors. I mean, it's just the perfume on this wine. It's amazing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's one of the first things Mira and I, when we opened that 2021, we look at each other and it's the first sentence in our tasting notes. It is sexy. Yeah. It is like there's something true to the vintage, but something unique to the aromas of that wine.
It's the soil too. Summerland has a lot of volcanic soil, and actually that salt that you taste under your lip, the only time you get that salt in a wine is from volcanic soil. It's a true fact. It's written about and everything. And just the nose of it, I mean, I call it the tractor factor. If I don't smell that during the ferment, I know it's not going to be what it's supposed to be. So I do everything I can to adjust temperature, give it oxygen, maybe a little bit of extra food, cool it down, warm it up. Like I'm constantly every minute looking at the ferment, temperature wise, smell. Like it's to me, rosé is the hardest wine to make. Just because it's so technical, white wine, you just have to worry about, the nose and kind of the flavor. With rosé, you've got color to deal with. You need acidity, you need aroma, you need your flavor, you need all that. So it's very...
Isn't it something the most disappointing when you open a bottle of rosé and you don't have these great aromas? It start off so... When you have a bad whiff on a red wine, you just all decant it, will wait a few minutes. But I think on the rosé, it just doesn't go. It's just like, to me, it ruined the experience from the get-go if you don't have beautiful aromas at the beginning. And I think you nailed it. Like that's exactly what it is.
Like with I honestly think we make better not we as in Okanagan, BC. We make better rosé than Provence, I believe. We have the fruit component that they don't have. Like you're into they're very good rosés. They're very delicate, very soft, muted flavors. They don't have the explosion of nose like some of our rosés do. But I've learned over the years, and I'm still learning every year, the nose comes through the ferment, through temperature. Even the size of your vat and the style of your vat, I found, makes a big difference in the nose. So I've been playing with different container sizes in stainless. Tractor Vines always has barrel, French barrel ferment as well. That's where you get that creaminess from as well. So lees stirring, we do a lot of lees stirring throughout the ferment. Sometimes even a slight malolactic fermentation, depending on if the acidity is too green. We'll do a partial malo, maybe a week, just a tiny bit, because the acidity is a big factor in this wine, and we work all season to keep it. It's very hot there. Like it's in that it's like this little heat dome. So we keep the leaves on as long as we can, just to maintain that acidity and try not to get the colors, and the skin's too dark. So this year was a little bit of a challenge because it was hotter.
Well, that's my next segue. Like 2021 threw a wrench into a lot of winemakers and lots of growing season for grape grower because it was really challenging in many aspects. I'm not saying that it's not a good vintage. And there's going to be some outstanding wine coming out of the 2021, but there's so many challenges starting with the heat dome in June, late June, early July. That's a period of time that we had never had such a long stretch of extremely hot weather. So that changed the cycle of the vines, correct?
Yeah, they shut down more often, and when the vines shut down at a certain temperature, usually around 34, 36 degrees Celsius, they shut down. They don't ripen at all. They just they stop working basically until it cools down, then they start again. So there's a little bit of delay there. Like you noted, Carl, was that the tractor and vines, which I agree with you, is just a hint darker this year. And that's because of the hotter year we had. And we actually kept the hard press separate. So we didn't include the hard press in this wine because it was too dark.
Well,
We had not the lowest tonnage we've ever had, but 4.2 for us instead of 4.7 or 8 is a huge difference. Half a ton an acre, right? And that made the difference as well in the berry size, the color, the texture. As you can see, this is probably the best year ever, I think, for balance, for texture, for acidity. But the color was sacrificed a little bit. Again, I don't add Gewurz or Chardonnay or to bring the color down. I could make a barely pale rosé out of it if I wanted to. But we're single vineyard, we're single varietal, we farm for rosé, and this is what we got. So I have the crushing, the soaking on the skins, and the ferment to adjust my colors. Right. The cooler the ferment, the more color you maintain. The warmer the ferment, you start to lose color, right? And the warmer the ferment too, you get an explosion of flavors as well. So there's a little bit of mimicking there. Also,
and where does the sugar stand in that balance? If you get warmer when you ferment, is the sugar goes high? The alcohol level goes higher?
Well, the cooler you ferment, you have lower alcohol, but you also leave more potential of leaving more sugar left in the wine.
Yeah.
So, but on the other scale, when you're warmer, you have to worry about getting too much alcohol. So there's that fine balance there.
And something that you don't want to showcase, you don't want to end up with having a boozy rosé, right?
No.
So that's the last thing you want to put on the market.
Yeah, and each of these vineyards have a sweet spot for sugar that I found over the years. So I've tried to, and usually the acid follows. We're always looking for that high 7, even low 8 acid for tractor and vines, and below 23 sugar. So once we're getting close to 22.7, 23, the sugars or the acids are in line, and it's besides a flavor tweak, maybe you have to leave it a few days longer. It's usually the same time to pick every year, so within a week of each other anyways. I know one year we picked 3rd week of September, which was really early, but
wow.
But usually it's mid-October. Yeah.
So you mentioned briefly, you said it was maybe the best vintage. So you saying that Tractor in 2021 Tractor and Vines Pinot Noir might be the best that you've made so far?
Yeah. I think it trumps 2020, even though we got amazing scores, and it's amazing wine. I think the color was on point for 2020, but the extra little bit of heat that we had in 21. There's no smoke in it or anything from the fires. because we didn't leave it hanging for red wine, right? And the textures and the balance of sugar and acidity, it has just actually a little bit of sweetness without being sugar. I think it's 1 point low 1 sugar, I think it was, which is, very, very dry. Actually, as dry as we've ever had, but it actually, the perception of sweetness is higher because of the hotter vintage. And it's actually lower in alcohol than some of the vintages. But there's a sugar sweet and there's a fruit sweet. So you can get sweetness from alcohol, you can get sweetness from sugar, but you can also get sweetness from sunshine. So the sweetness I'm talking about is from the sunshine.
And then Mira's back here. Mira, hold on 1 second. I don't want to miss what I have. Just 1 second. That's funny because when we opened the first bottle, I was with another winemaker in my house. And when I tasted Tractor and Vines first, the first thing was the texture. I said, oh my God, stylistically it's different. And that other winemaker knows you very well. And he says, no, girl, it's the typicity of the vintage. So and then right there, it makes so much sense. Now I thought of the E-dome and this and that, the managing the early heat and all that. So yeah, Mira, welcome back.
Well, I was going to say, Mike had a good question about how many acres in Summerland at the Tractor and Vines. And I don't know if you already answered it. I just didn't hear it. So
there's 1 acre.
1 acre.
1 acre, yeah. It's an 1.5 acre property. I don't know if you know Trout Creek, but it's a premium, $1 million homes, beautiful, right across from the lake.
We're here right now. We just moved here. It is amazing. It's a gorgeous community.
There's our little vineyard that we lease on this beautifully manicured property that we have to take extra special care when we're on with tractors and, keep it all, a little bit neater and tidier because it's not out in the bush somewhere or out on a bench. And there's an organic orchard close by. And those are really the only 2 on that whole flat that are in agriculture still.
So is it next to Blossom Fruit Stand then?
No.
No.
Blossom Fruit Stand? I've never seen a Blossom Fruit Stand there.
There's,
No, I think it's right behind it.
We live here now, so we keep trying to find this little vineyard so we can say hi.
I think you're here. There's the empty lot that has those 2 new rental houses on there with the sloped roof, and then there's our vineyard. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
There you go.
We'll look for it. We'll definitely.
You just have to go for a walk down Nixon.
Yeah. It's not like I can Google map. Oh, Tractor and Vines Vineyard. It'll tell me.
No.
We just walk around and we're like, if we find a vineyard, that's probably it, right?
We needed a name for the vineyard, and the gentleman who started the vineyard, he passed away a few years ago, but he joked and called it, he goes, oh, it's Tractor and Vine, right, as a joke, and he had it in his literature that he gave me, and then said, well, that's a perfect name, Tractor and Vine. So
there you go.
That's cool.
It's stuck.
That's cool.
I love it.
Yeah, more and more I fall in love with the potential of Summerland. I think this is it. Because here we have lots of people listening from the eastern part of the country. So Summerland for them, it's not something that they used to hear a lot. Like, okay, they know about Osoyoos Oliver, they know about Kelowna, but Summerland, it's always the forgotten part, in my opinion, of the beautiful north to south Okanagan, right down the middle. Summerland to me is the hidden gem.
I think it's I would say that's similar to OK Falls.
Yeah.
With having the bigger lake, of course, obviously, because you have Okanagan Lake versus Skaha Lake.
True.
So you get a little bit more of the lake effect. But again, the acidity at night, the preservation of acidity when it gets cooler in the nights. The valley is very short in Summerland. So there's lots of shading, but there's also release of heat from the mountains at the same time. So you get a lot of complexity. Yeah, there's a lot of Gewürztraminer, Pinot Gris in the area, Pinot Noir.
The wines that have a distinctive minerality, right? We just talked about the saltiness that will find in Tractor and Vines. I can definitely taste that in some of the Merlots from the mouth of Trout Tree, and also Cannon View Vineyard is a spectacular vineyard for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir as well. So
yeah, we made a couple 2 or 3 years in a row. We made a Canning View Rosé out of there when Cremo owned that property. Yeah, so that was good.
Yeah, that's a very cool story.
Yeah, definitely darker skins. No matter, it was probably mid-range of Seven Directions as far as starting out from 2012. But even the smallest stint on skins was very dark, so it was a different clone, right? There's many clones of Pinot Noir. We have 667, which I planted in Costin as well.
Okay.
So it's mid-sized berries, not too dark, not spicy at all, generally. But yeah, so I guess it just loves the soil. I'd have to talk to the owners one day, maybe bring an excavator and do a 6-foot hole somewhere. I don't know, but
yeah. Hey, let's shine the light now on your project on Bottega Wine Studio, because yes, you're known as the Rosé Master, you're known for Seven Direction, but there's other thing that you're working on, and you and Christine, yes, your business partner and your lovely wife, have been working your tail off for many years now to open that winery in the Similkameen Valley. So where are you at with the project?
Well, we're in the Similkameen, in Costin. We got our manufacturing license this fall, so we'll definitely be crushing the fruit we purchased and a little bit of fruit coming off our vines this year, maybe 2-3 tons kind of thing. We were hoping to open the wine shop this summer, but delays, hard to get material, contractors, stuff like that. So we have a few more things to do to get our endorsement for our tasting room. So we're going to postpone that probably until next, maybe May, we're hoping. There's still things to do. We're still waiting for countertops for the wine shop. We need stucco put on, metal, concrete poured.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, the driveway's got to be done.
And one thing unique that you've done, and Mira touched about it at the very beginning of the interview, it's you planted Grenache there. And there's not many people who have Grenache in the ground in the Okanagan. I maybe have 1 or 2 other vineyard, but not many. So you are going full on French style, Provençal style for Seven Direction, right?
Yeah, well, it's it's a little bit tricky when even now I tell people I planted Grenache, like, oh, you planted Grenache? Are you going to ripen it? Like, well, I don't know if you're familiar with the Similkameen bench here, but there's Barcello Vineyards, which is a large 80-acre vineyard, and they have Grenache there as well. So they've had it for quite a few years. So it does grow here. It's very hot, like super hot here.
It's hot and rugged, right? It's windy, rugged.
Yeah, very windy, yeah. The vines are like all like this permanently because it's so windy.
Yeah.
But we're making it for rosé, so we really only need 22 sugar, not a lot of sugar. For Grenache, it's a slightly late ripener, and so it takes longer to shut down in the winter, like in the fall. So if it doesn't shut down properly, there's a potential of if it freezes, that the vines can die or crack because it still has sap flow. But if you don't push the vines, we'll have to have lower crop on there. So we'll probably be in the 2-3 tons instead of 4.5.
Okay, that's much lower, right?
Yeah, just to give them a chance to shut down. So I think it's going to be a challenge a little bit to figure out the first few years. How the grapes are going to react in the press and ferment and such like that. So we also planted Pinot Noir and Cab Franc. So, and again, worst case scenario in a bad year when it's cold, we make sparkling wine. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's super hot and all the acid falls out, well, we make some pretty damn good red wine. So
yeah, exactly. Like the new Similkameen blend.
Yeah, but we're making it specifically for rosé. That's what we planted for. We're Bottega Wine Studios. We have 3 brands, but our focus is rosé. So eventually we're gonna have 5, 6 rosés, different styles, different vineyards, and such like that. Different tiers as well. So.
So the vineyard in the Similkameen is what, 4 or 5 acres? How many acres do you have planted?
3.5.
3.5, and the Grenache count for 1.5 of it.
Grenache is acre and a quarter.
An acre, okay, 1.25.
Yeah, Cab Franc's about the same, and then Pinot is about an acre and 2 clones. Yeah.
Okay.
I planted a 1/4 acre of a Champagne clone of Pinot Noir, which retains its acidity. It's very high in acidity, and I knew it was going to be really hot here. I didn't think it'd be this hot, but I'm glad I planted it because it might actually be the savior in the Pinot Noir in the other block.
That's interesting.
Right,
so in your projection, the vines were planted last year, correct?
Yes.
So now you're on year 2. The projection is next year you're gonna have a couple berries, or the year after?
No, I'll have a little bit this year. Normally we cut the plants right down to just a couple buds, so they regenerate and they get a better root system. Some of them are a little bit thicker, so we want to leave a little bit more on them. Some made it to being able to get to the fruity wire, and then we'll train a couple cordons up.
Okay.
But we'll ferment whatever we get separately. But ultimately, I think the first couple of years, we'll put it into the K Little Rosé, right, which is our red, white, and blends that we have. But again, there could be something spectacular comes out. Usually even third leaf can be some of the best wines in the world are made on the third leaf fruit. So Pinot Noir and Cabernet Franc are on third leaf. Not all of them are going to make it, to fruit this year, but different parts of the vineyard. We have gravel in some. We have some that are very silty. We have a high proportion of clay. So those clay sections were a little bit, even though clay retains its water, there's very little nutrients in clay. So our clay areas where the vines are smaller, which is fine. I mean, I'm not rushing them for fruit, so I'd rather have healthy vines.
Nah, no doubt. Hey, you just mentioned some of the best wine in the world. I remember a couple years ago, I was still living in Calgary, and you say, Carl, I would like to have a case of the Gerard Bertrand Rosé, and what I sourced for you. If you don't mind, I will talk about the price. It was a $275 a bottle, and comes in 3 packs, so close to $1,000 tax in for 3 bottles of rosé. And when I sourced it for you, I replied to you. I said, "Are you sure that's what you wanted?" You said, "Yep. Please, can you get it for me?" So, did you have the chance to try a bottle?
I tried a bottle last, not too long after you bought it. Actually, I still have 2 bottles left.
So you had one, you tasted one. How was it?
Yeah, it was. I don't know if you're. I don't know if you've ever had it, but Chateau.
I've never tried it. I tried many of the Gerard Bertrand, but never this one. We had an agreement that you would call me, but you never did. So I'm just joking. I'm joking.
So now on live we have to taste it because I said we were going to taste it, right? I don't know if you've ever had Chateau des Clans, like Whispering Angel.
Absolutely, many times.
No, but have you had Garouche, like their top?
Their top line, yes.
Yeah, so that's been the highest scoring rosé. It's scored 97 points, quite often. It's very similar to that.
Okay.
I don't drink a lot of white Burgundy. I've had it maybe once or twice, like really good stuff. And it has that feel, and that this is like
the precision, right?
It's been an oak. It's it's very mineral, very delicate, very light. But the one you actually bought had a little bit more fruit component. So I think it's a different. It's not right in Provence, so it's a different. I don't don't know the region exactly, but it was very good. So I think
Awesome.
Gizmondi rated 95 points. So
Yeah, so not too shabby either.
Yeah.
But we have Tractor and Vines 2021 at 93 plus points. And we have Fruitvale Ridge Cabernet Franc 2021 at 92 points. And Danielle, thanks for partnering up with us this week. We are thrilled, and I know there's some members like Mike and Pierre who are listening right now. They already put their order in. These are order of 12 bottles. They are excited to get the new vintage. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for your knowledge. I appreciate that.
I actually wanted to mention about the fermentation, because I could talk all night here, but when I do barrel fermentation, I have, they're called cooling snakes. They're these coils that glycol flows through them. And I put one in every single barrel, and they're all monitored at 16 degrees Celsius. So each barrel is temperature controlled as well as the tanks. So it's a very precise temperature that you need to get the nose and the texture and everything. So it's employed in some of the most expensive rosés in Provence. They use barrel ferment and brand new French oak. I've done a few rosés in brand new French oak in 500-liter barrels, and they turned out really well. So I'm going to start doing some of that now that I have our own place.
That's amazing.
And start experimenting with that as well. So yeah,
the future sounds so interesting with Seven Directions.
Yeah, and I had no idea how technical, like you're saying, and how precise you have to be for rosé. Like with
it's not set it and forget it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Like reds are easy. You crush it, you punch it down twice a day. It goes from 16 to 30 degrees. You're done. You press it, all good, goes in the barrel. Whites are a little bit harder. You have to maintain aroma, but rosés, man, I tell you, it's that color component that a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't matter about the color, but in perception for me, darker color means sweeter wine, because the darker the skins, the higher the sugar, the more color you get, right? And there's that fine line between when you initially crush your fruit, it's not all roses and fruit. It's vegetable, it's leaf, it's the odd little creature that you're smelling that when and then after a few hours the color starts to come. So there's the longer you leave it on the skins, the darker you're going to get.
Yeah.
But not a lot of people farm for rosé. It's an afterthought. It's the red wine's coming in, we need more rosé, let's make more rosé, and by that time it's too late. So they have that color for red wine, but it's not for rosé. So in order to get your flavors, you have to leave it on the skins longer, because the skins have the flavor. But if you're farming for rosé, your flavor's in the juice, not the skins.
Fascinating.
So that's the trick. So less time on the skins, you'll have your flavor. So it's just that, I'm waiting for the right color, and then it's good to go.
That's fascinating. I can talk about that for another hour and a half.
It's amazing. Even with him being sick, he's saying, because otherwise he'd go for 5 hours. But yeah,
I'm sure I could go too. So I've got enough wine here. So
awesome. Well, I still have a bit of your rosé here, and I can't wait to get to it. You're gonna have some sushi, Carl Boucher.
Oh, there you go.
Ramen.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that woman.
And don't be afraid to try the Fruitvale Ridge with steak. Yeah, not so much Tractor and Vines, but the Fruitvale, like rosé with it doesn't have to be a salad or something light, or fruit or something. It's meat, like meat, fish.
Danielle, in my tasting notes, I put lamb chop.
Yeah.
As a food pairing.
It's got that
because
extra
weight in it.
Yeah. You have that extra weight that you can pair it with heavier food items. Right?
No doubt, absolutely no doubt about that. And
Tractor and Vines,
a little bit.
I mean, you can drink that on its own all day long in the sun, in the lake, whatever. I mean, it's just like the acidity is so refreshing. And
yeah, I agree.
We're not big food pairers. Like we'll drink rosé with anything. It doesn't matter. But You know,
Yeah.
there's don't be afraid to try different foods. So,
Totally. Totally. I love it. Thank you so much, Daniel. And
no, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
yeah,
Thank you.
next time
It's
you're
nice to
driving
be able to do
through.
your club again. I mean, we were the first ones 2 years ago when you first started. Did you tell them it
Yeah.
was my idea?
Yeah, right? Yes.
I said, Carl, you need to make a wine club. You should call it Carl's Wine Club. I said, nobody's done it. You got to do it. And sure enough, yeah.
There you go, right?
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
you were like, and you can experiment on me, and we sure
Yeah.
did. You were a guinea
No, it
pig.
was great to be the first one. I mean, it was really
Yeah, it
great
was really
turnout for that first one. Yeah. So
totally.
Yeah, and that will never change. You're gonna be the first, like you, the first ever, the original one from Carl's Wine Club. That's awesome. I love it, and I love the connection. I like that you trust us to go because you will sell out no matter what. You don't need Carl's Wine Club to sell your wines. You're selling out every year, and to have the opportunity to offer our members these very special wines means a
well,
lot to me and Mira.
see that's the thing, right? Like we don't have a lot of wine. We don't have a big, across Canada, wine club. We don't even have a wine club yet ourselves. We have a very small email list, but it's nice to have other people in different provinces try the wines too. So by going, joining your club and working with you, we're all the way down to Prince Edward Island, Quebec, Montreal, all across Canada. So it's great, yeah.
Yeah, and like the people in Vancouver, some of the top restaurants, that's where your wines are the most distributed. The nice table on the mainland, and in downtown Vancouver, that's where every year a good chunk of your production goes. Correct?
Yeah.
There you
No,
go.
absolutely. I mean, it's we have one rep. He's in Vancouver. He does great. Rich Massey Wine and Spirits. Very few liquor stores. It's mostly scooped up by restaurants. There's one particular, actually, Smitty's Oyster House in Gibson's. They have tractor and vines, and man, I tell you, with their fish they have there and their oysters, they go through a lot of tractor and vines in the summer. There, it's like overhanging the ocean. Their patio, like we haven't been there, but we've seen pictures. But it's places like that. But when it's gone, come August, if they can get it until August, or it lasts until August at the restaurants. But
Yeah.
we don't keep a lot of rosé for ourselves. We got to keep our rep happy and customers happy. But we have a little allocation for us, and that'll change more and more as our wine shop opens, right?
Yeah, but for this year, with that very spectacular 2021, it should fly off the shelf, even if there's no shelf yet. Yeah, we're blessed. Thank you so very much, Danielle. Enjoy your evening. We're gonna have sushi with rosé tonight. You're the best. Thanks a million.
Enjoy the wine. Thank you.
Thank you. When you feel like shit and you get that type of connection with someone, I feel like $1 million right now.
Ah, that's awesome.
That's okay. Maybe after you ordered sushi, it helps still better. But
yeah, and there's a nice fire here. We've got rosé from Seven Directions. You got to get downstairs here and relax, Carl Boucher.
You know what? What a great interview. How do you see how much more comfortable he was? More like further we went through the interview, and at the end he was like just like a chip, because he hates doing that. He absolutely hates doing that. He always tells me, and I'm like, "You're fine. You're really good." And at the end, he was like a freaking rock star.
You can tell this is his element, and this is what he's amazingly world-class good at and passionate about. And that's why it's so much fun drinking his wines, because that every detail has been scrutinized. Like, this isn't like, just by chance that these wines taste and smell and look so good.
And you know what? And I will call something right now. And Tractor and Vines is on its way to become a cult wine in Canada.
You found a few of those over the last year and a half since we started.
And you know what? This is a big word. Like, cult is like something you use only for like the Romani Conti or some of the top, like the Screaming Eagle or these kind of thing. But let's put it that way. Let's bring back, like, he made 200 cases of tractor and vines. Last year, he made 145 cases. Like he mentioned, he barely doesn't keep any for themselves. He sold almost everything to his agent, who doesn't sell to liquor stores, goes to the top table in Vancouver, and a few people like us. So guess what? Now, it started in 2012. We're 10 years in. And I know at minute 34 in the recording, that's where he says that 2021 is the best one that he ever made. Okay? I brought him to say it because I want you to clip it, and we're going to email everyone tomorrow. That little clip, 34 minutes, at minute 34 of the recording.
Totally. There's a few more things I want to clip. I mean, I learned that, you know, that salty minerality that we taste sometimes, right? And we often get it from Summerland. Well, Daniel told us it's because of the volcanic soils. That's where that comes from. So that is a good tidbit for me to know too. Yeah. And, you know, I love what you're saying about the cult wine kind of status. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Dick Grace when we went to Napa and met the Grace family. And same kind of thing. Like, you cannot buy those wines anywhere except some of the top restaurants and through some personal connections with the family, I guess, right?
That's it. That's it. And when you talk to wine people across the province, more I talk to people, and when you mention Seven Directions and Daniel Bontorin, people go, oh, you know him? Oh, have you tasted Tractor and Vines? And yes, I did. Like, I'm 5 vintage in a row that I tasted his wine now. And yeah, it is becoming that. Like, and by having such a small production, I'm telling you, that's becoming cult. The quality is absolutely incredible. And we just mentioned single vineyard, single varietal with specific rosé viticulture in the vineyard. So these elements are top precision. These elements create this wine here that is very special. Very freaking special.
It's amazing, and I'm so excited to see it continue to progress. I'm excited about the Grenache he planted and tasting that in a few years. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I might come downstairs and start dying on the couch beside the fire, or maybe watching the lake with the wave. Hey, before we go, let me say a few words in French, okay? Because I haven't talked French at all today.
Yeah, Pierre,
je voulais juste dire un beau bonjour à tous nos membres qui nous... Désolé. À tous nos membres francophones qui nous suivent à travers le pays, les gens du Québec, la belle région de Québec avec notre chum Pierre Nollet, Jean-Denis qui est de l'autre rive, les gens du Nouveau-Brunswick, du nord de l'Ontario, tous nos membres en français, un gros merci de nous suivre. Aujourd'hui, on a parlé avec Daniel Bontorin, qui est originaire de l'Ouest canadien, avec des racines italiennes. Daniel, depuis 2005, a fait 55 vins rosés. Il est devenu le spécialiste, la sommité en vin rosé au Canada. Et je vous dirais même qu'il s'en vient dans le monde entier. Daniel fait des vins rosés uniques, fait des vins rosés splendides, en petite quantité, 200 caisses par année de vignobles, de parcelles, de sélection parcellaire, et puis de raisins, de grape varietal. Je perds mon français, ça n'a pas de bon sens. En tout cas, il fait des vins très précis, il fait des vins uniques, parce qu'on considère que ça devient un culte. Le culte du rosé, Daniel l'a parti en 2005 au Canada. Il a changé la perception des vins rosés, c'est des vins sucrés, comme le Ernest et Julio Gallo. Maintenant, il était à l'avant-garde de la révolution du rosé, et maintenant, c'est la sommité winemakers à travers le pays l'appellent pour prendre des conseils de lui. Donc, on est chanceux, on est les seuls à publier et à présenter ses vins en dehors de sa petite liste de clients privés et des restaurants de Vancouver. Donc, un gros merci à tous nos membres francophones. Les vins sont disponibles jusqu'à demain. Les tarifs de transport sont un petit peu plus élevés, mais si vous avez écouté l'entrevue, vous pouvez réaliser que Daniel fait seulement 400 caisses de vin par année uniquement en rosé. Le transport est extrêmement dispendieux et il n'y a pas d'autres vins pour l'aider à subventionner plus. Donc, par le fait même, les coûts de transport sont beaucoup plus chers. Ça vaut la peine, par exemple, parce que je vous dis que les vins sont écœurants. Écœurants. C'est des vins de style français. C'est des vins qui sont précis. C'est des vins qui sont authentiques.
Fantastic.
Sorry. Yeah. I just wanted to touch base on the shipping a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we explain a little bit why? Because, like with a bigger producer have margin coming from bigger wines, right? Daniel doesn't have that.
Yeah.
We have all noticed that, yes, the shipping cost on this offer is all higher. But for a guy like Daniel who produced 450 cases of rosé a year, doesn't have all of the other wines to help him offset the cost and chip in and subsidize shipping like most of the winery do. So these are $22 and $24 wines, but he doesn't have anything else around to subsidize and chip in for the shipping. So that's the reason why he still gave us a 20% discount on the shipping. But now you guys realize, look at how much it costs, add 20% of that, and it's the real cost of shipping a box.
And sometimes more, actually.
Sometimes more, absolutely.
More remote areas. So yeah, we're grateful for the opportunity to do that. And I know that the shipping is sometimes, like everyone hates shipping costs. But the reality is that they've gone up quite a bit with the price of gas, with the shortages, and it's it's not something that a smaller producer can absorb like that. So we're grateful to still have access to these wines and still be able to get them across the country to you guys. I'm really grateful that you're willing to try them out and tell us what you think.
Oh my God, I can't wait for you guys to get them because, again, these are iconic and getting a cult level. So
yeah,
there you go.
Amazing. So, okay. We're going to be in touch very soon. We have a quiz. So anyone who wants to take this fun quiz, I'm going to put the link here. We have a new quiz that we're launching early next week that's going to help you find the next winery to try. So if you've ever been like, there's so many choices, Carl's Wine Club features a different winery almost every week. Which one would I like the most? Well, we have a fun quiz. I just put it in the comments there.
And the quiz determines your Canadian wine personality.
Yeah. Right? So going forward, we might have to start thinking, Carl, about, putting a little symbol next to each wine. Like if you're this type of personality, you'll probably really like this wine or something like that.
Yes. We need, to make these signs known by all the members.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm on it, Mira Boucher. Canadian wine lovers, Carl's Wine Club members, all of you across the country, a big thank you for listening. It's 7 Directions Rosés week, so you have until tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Cheers. Hey, I'm just putting in the. Oops, here it is. That link I tried to put in didn't go everywhere, so I'm just putting it in for you, Ken. Awesome. Well, cheers. Have a great week, guys. We'll chat soon.
Cheers.